with something that's a bit of a bombshell, that you actually saw O.J. Simpson once after the acquittal in a strip mall parking lot.
I did.
And the thought crossed your mind. Tell us what you went through.
So I was driving in a strip mall, and this figure walked in front of my car, and I knew it was him. I was 100% confident. I mean, I'd studied him. I watched him. I knew that swagger. And I put my foot on the pedal, I white-knuckled it, and I was revving the engine, and I thought I could take him out. Nobody would ever know. And I thought of my dad, and I just couldn't put him through that. And I'm not a killer, so that wouldn't be part of me anyway, but I definitely fantasized it.
You really considered it?
There was nobody around. I thought it's just him and me.
All right, folks, that's Kim Goldman. And it's hard to believe that it was 20 years ago, 1994, when the O.J. Simpson trial took place, and of course before the trial, the murders of Ron Goldman, the brother of Kim, who joins us. Kim, welcome. All right, I assume we'll have Kim momentarily. Kim is the author of thanks, Kim, appreciate it. Thanks for coming on. We just played the soundbite of you talking about the time that you actually considered, killing O.J. Simpson when you had the chance. We should point out that's all in your brand new book, Can't Forgive: My 20-Year Battle with O.J. Simpson, which we'll be putting up here on the screen. People say, and this is most people's experience, that with time, it gets easier. I won't say time heals all wounds, but how difficult is it still for you?
Well, I would tend to say that time just makes it more permanent because, with every passing day, I never know what my grief is going to bring to me that day. We work through the ebbs and flows of grief and loss and trauma and tragedy. And I want to point out that story that I told in my book was 17 years ago. So I want to keep it in perspective that was at the height of all the trials that were going on. And that was when he was in Los Angeles at the time. And I was still pretty raw and vulnerable. But, we make the best of it every day, and I make room for the grief. And that's kind of how I live my life now.
And you live your life by helping children who have problems of all kinds, whether they're abused or addicted or bullied, etc. And I want to talk about the Santa Clara Valley Youth Center Youth Project. But you obviously believe that O.J. did it.
Absolutely. There's not a doubt in my mind. The mountains of evidence against him, the unanimous jury verdict in the civil case, his confession in the If I Did It book. There's no doubt that he's the sole person responsible for stabbing Ron and Nicole.
When you look back, I mean, I could look back and I think what a horrible job Marcia Clark and the prosecution did. So many unanswered questions that I have. I can't imagine how many unanswered questions you have. Right away, I think of Kardashian and the suitcase and that disappeared. That's just number one off the top of my head. Does that bother you?
I guess yes and no. I mean, I don't know honestly what would have made a difference in the criminal case. I don't think that Marcia and Chris, I don't hold them responsible. I think that they sacrificed so much of themselves, of their lives, of their careers to advocate for Ron and Nicole. And I think that they were up against such a larger than life, defense team. Defendants. It was the first time that any of a case like this, besides the Menendez trial, was gavel to gavel.
Okay.
What? I can hear you.
No, well, we lost your sound for a second there. Yeah, we lost your sound for a second there when you were saying that Marcia had done so much to advocate for Ron over the years.
I just think that they were up against such the notoriety of the defense team, of the killer, that I don't know that anything would have made a difference. The black satchel bag that disappeared, I have no idea what was in it. We had all of the blood evidence where it was supposed to be, the fibers, the DNA, everything was pointing to one person. So
was it the police mishandling of evidence, or was it just jury nullification, that you believe this jury was going to say not guilty basically no matter what?
I would tend to lean towards the latter, that, the jury was tired. It was 9 months, in seclusion. And I do believe that there was some nullification that went on throughout that trial. And quite frankly, we got derailed from the evidence, more often than not, when we were talking about all these extraneous things that had nothing to do with the facts of the case. And I think that gets tiresome after a while. But, the jury said it themselves. They kind of stopped listening. And so at what point did they stop listening? I have no idea.
What credence did you ever give to, if at all, the theory that was presented by some, I don't think at court, that O.J. was protecting his son, that the son might have had involvement in this?
Honestly, I think he's too much of a coward, and I think he's too narcissistic to do that. There's no evidence pointing to Jason, to pointing to anybody else except him. Everything points to him, nothing to distract us from that as far as I'm concerned.
Have we progressed? That jury nullification what was something based on race. Do you believe that if that trial were held today, we'd be more likely or less likely to have that kind of racial atmosphere and a racially tinged courtroom and the result of jury nullification?
It's hard to say because his celebrity, I think, dictated so much of what went on in that room. But I do think that race plays a part in all of our courtrooms when it not necessarily. I mean, we saw it in Trayvon Martin. We see it in other high-profile cases that we're fortunate to be a witness to. But I think that, when the defense team is not entirely confident in their defendant or in their case, they throw whatever they can up against the wall and see what sticks. And in this one, it worked. Had Furman, way back in the beginning of our trial, said, yes, I used the N-word, it probably would have taken the wind out of their sails. And, we may have been able to move quickly past that. But because he denied it so valiantly, we spent so much time going over it and over and over, and then that became the sole focus. And again, there was no evidence to support conspiracy, racism, planting of evidence, none of it.
Do you believe that the lawyer team he worked that worked with him, that huge defense team, do you believe they thought he did it or knew he did it?
I do believe that some of them believed that he was guilty, but did whatever they could to protect him and to distract us, as I said. I mean, I don't know that any of them, with the exception maybe of F. Lee Bailey, ever came outright and said he absolutely did not commit this crime. The rest of them sort of danced around it.
Have you talked to any of them in the 20 years or the 17 years since or whatever,
No.
Since the trial?
I've had conversations with Dershowitz, but only in panel type settings, but nothing. I don't expect to.
When you speak to the children or the teens that you speak to, do they know who you are? Do they know what happened?
I don't believe so, unless there's only one group a couple years ago that realized, only because I was leading a group during the If I Did It phase of all of this. But that's not what this is about. My practice with working with the kids is to focus on them and to make sure that I'm where they're at, and my personal stuff doesn't have a part. But if they see something, I don't lie, but I don't offer it.
And your son, what do you tell your son?
My son knows everything, all age appropriate, of course. He's 10, and as he's gotten older, his questions have definitely become more sophisticated. But he now knows the name of the person that killed his uncle, and he knows that it's a famous case. He knows that it's on the internet. That was confusing to him for a while. But he's very sensitive and very aware, and he's also very proud of the work that my dad and I continue to do to help others, which is great for me to be able to share that with him.
Let me ask you the same question, but in a different way, possibly, as I asked before. Do you believe we're better off racially as a country now? Do you believe with the election of Barack Obama that has shown that we're better off, or that Barack Obama and Eric Holder have done more to divide, or are we in the same place we were 20 years ago and it doesn't matter? What do you think?
I think that our case definitely created a rift that I thought was healing. I never saw racism to the extent that I did with our case, but I also got to see another side of it, which was very united. And, the split screen that the media perpetuated is not entirely how I experienced it on the street with people. But I think that people are set in their ways regardless of race, religion. You know, people get mad at each other over rooting for the opposing sports team. So I think that we are just an intolerant country as a whole. People are incredibly judgmental and critical, and the internet, I also think, breeds some of that hatred and that hostility. So
what about,
I don't know how much further ahead
what about
we
Donald?
are.
Yeah. What about Donald Sterling? Real quick, should he be forced to sell and all that stuff?
You know, that's a tough one. He is not making a good argument for himself. In the very beginning, I thought, I don't really know if I see it the same way, but it's just getting worse and worse. I don't know if they can force him out legally. I'm trying to learn all I can about the NBA and contracts and what it is to be a team owner, but it's bad. But
Kim, thank you very, very much. And the book, folks, is Can't Forgive, My 20-Year Battle with O.J. Simpson. You're a remarkable woman. I'm sure your son is proud of you, and your dad, too, and your brother looking down. Thank you, Kim. We're coming back, folks, with Gimme 5.